The purpose of this presentation is to highlight some of the important points in the case on Plato's Republic. Recall that the case is just an excerpt from his larger work on the Republic. A little humor. First of all, consider the important points. Plato is concerned about a society having particular kinds of people in leadership positions. We're interpolating what he said here and trying to apply it to business organizations as well as any other organizations which we might be involved in. And ultimately, he's saying that this boils down to two things that people need. They need knowledge and character. He begins by addressing the issue of knowledge, and he differentiates ignorance, opinion, and knowledge as follows, and it's book 5, pages 4 to 7. He says ignorance means that people don't know. He says that opinion means people know nothing of what they profess to believe. That's a fantastic line to consider the next time someone wants to share their opinion with you. You can define opinion as them knowing nothing of what they actually profess to believe. And if you think about that and you read the local newspaper or anything like that with the op-ed pages, you'll discover that a lot of people talk about what they think is right, but they really don't know much about what they're talking about. And Plato differentiates this knowing as knowledge and basically says that a person has at least gone out and tried to seek what the truth is in regard to a situation. And these are the people that love wisdom and eventually should be the leaders that we want to have in place. So consider that definition of a philosopher as a lover of wisdom and not just somebody that's in an ivory tower somewhere. As far as wisdom and truth goes, the truth being the goodness of human beings and also eternal and unchanging truths about human existence as opposed to transient facts. Okay, when we get to book 6, pages 7 to 9, and again these numbers align with the numbers in the case as it's presented. Leaders need to be competent to guard the laws and activities of a society. They have to love the knowledge of an eternal existence out there beyond this life. They have to love truth. They need to be indifferent to bodily pleasures and certainly not money seekers. They should be generous and not seek to drive bargains. Leaders need to possess a good memory. They have to have proportion, measure, and grace. On line 75, he summarizes all the qualities. And he discusses on other lines there the parable and treatment of the best people, what they get, and then also the notion of a natural state of affairs that you want to pay attention to. Wisdom differs from other virtues. Thinking is divine, so he differentiates wisdom as probably the paramount virtue. The soul, he says, is compulsed to evil but could be trained, so people that would not otherwise succeed as leaders might if they go through the right kind of training. A sense of duty is needed. This is akin to Immanuel Kant's view about principles and duty and fulfilling that duty. Line 67, he talks about the notion of needing harmony. He addresses in 13.4 the problem of politics and basically the idea that he has great disdain for politicians. He differentiates them from statespersons or statesmen. And basically talks about the idea that people get into politics because they can't find any other way to earn a living, so they decide to live off the public good. He mentions the allegory of the cave as sight wrongly directed, and basically in this case people are chained looking at a wall with light at their back causing shadows on the wall, and they believe that that's the only reality. One person who leaves the cave and finds out there's a different reality comes back and tries to convince them of that, but they will not listen in their ignorance. With regard to leaders, they need to be educated, they need to be warriors, good at math, good at reasoning, good at methodology, be able to be discerning in conflicts. He also mentions geometry and astronomy at that time, which were critical aspects of an education. Studies that contemplate reality, such as philosophy. Astronomy leads to the contemplation of higher things, thus the need for astronomy. And only the study of the unseen draws the soul upward. That's the whole notion of faith in things we have not seen, which becomes important. And he mentions the study and thought about those things which we can't see that leads to a higher calling and thought. Tangible objects are not changeless and eternal, so he basically says stay away from those sorts of things. The dialectic is to understand things through rational discussion and not sensory perception. Dialectic is then considered to be the best form of inquiry into reality. He goes on to talk about a leader's character and progression, having the ability to study. He also mentions that in doing this with leaders, you cannot force people to learn. It must be a fun activity. A person's age matters in the process. Age comes with wisdom. Um, how we go astray, the difficulties that we could face. And he also mentions that dialectic is not a sport, or else it leads to mistrust. So we don't engage in arguments just to taunt people and for fun. And he's probably the first one to mention that women need to be included in the process too. The first one to promote women's rights. And when people refer in this day and age to dead white males guiding philosophy, it's interesting to look at the facts about what people like Plato actually proposed with regard to society and inclusiveness. Doing what is right, judging by reason, mentioning that truth is not relative. You may have heard the quote, truth is relative. Relative to what? So that's a nonsensical statement to say that truth is a relative thing. And that pretty much summarizes the highlights. Again, please extract the highlights that you can from your own reading.